Yo, what's going on people? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you didn't already know, my name is Scott Pattenden, aka Lens Killer, and I'm a professional photographer and filmmaker based here in the UK. And if you didn't already know that, you need to press the red button underneath the screen right now and that's subscribe to my YouTube channel, or you can click the button in the bottom right hand corner right here. So before we get into this evening's video, I'd like you guys to leave your Instagram names below in the comment section. I'll go over to your page, give you a couple of likes and a couple of comments, and hopefully I'll be stoked with your work. So tonight's video is something that's been asked quite a lot of me recently, and it's something that I usually see on a lot of my social media platforms, and that question is, how do I edit my photos? So this video is going to be showing you guys the process, how to edit your photos super sick and to a professional standard. So we're going to jump on my Mac behind me, we're going to go into Lightroom and Photoshop, and I'm going to show you guys how to make your photos look sick. Let's get to it. So there's many different processes you guys can use in order to edit your photos. What I'm about to show you is a process that I have come up with that is a pretty standard process that a lot of people use, and it's a combination of a couple of software packages that I have now got dialed, and I'm stoked on the way that everything's working. And don't think for a second that I just had this like this. I've gone through years of trying to find a good editing style, softwares, that sort of thing. I mean, I used to edit on iPhoto and all I had was just to be able to control exposure and saturation and contrast and those simple things. But what you need to do is you need to go get Lightroom and you need to get Photoshop, and this isn't sort of thing that you can kind of get around. If you want great results out of editing your images, then you need these two software packages. And I mean, I only pay about 15 quid a month for the two of them, and they're a necessity for photography. So go to Adobe. I mean, I'm not saying you can or you should, but you can illegally torrent it as well. I didn't want to kind of do that because I need it for work use. So guys, this process that I'm about to show you isn't a sacred process, it's not the process in order to edit your photos, it's just my way of editing, and it's really worked for me, and it's kind of, I've got it dialed now. You know, I've been doing this for 5 years, I've gone through a lot of different software packages. I mean, I used to edit photos on iPhoto, and all I could do was control exposure, contrast, saturation, that sort of thing. But the two softwares that I'm using are Lightroom and Photoshop. Lightroom I do all of my color correction in, and Photoshop I do all my tinkering with, taking stuff out of the images, kind of burning stuff, dodging stuff, but we'll get into that a little bit more later when we've got the photos at that sort of stage. So what you want to do first of all, and this is an absolute crucial thing, because if not, then you're going to be really bored once you're editing your photos, is you need to go onto iTunes or you need to go onto YouTube and you need to play some music. And I really like to edit to liquid drum and bass, and drum and bass is sort of just because it's a really good kind of work ethic sort of drive. It's got a great beat to it, so we're going to listen to some cool drum and bass. So what you want to do is you want to have your images on the desktop ready for you to pull in. So what you're going to do is you're just going to grab your images and you're going to dump them straight into Lightroom, and it's going to pop up like so. We're just going to click all of these, check all, import the images. Okay, so we've got our images here. We've got a nice little abstract architecture shot there, nice landscape shot, some shots of some palm trees in California. This is some on some train tracks, downtown LA with Ryan Taylor, Huntington Beach, Ryan Taylor, downtown LA again, Laguna Beach with a nice wave getting crashed. This one's a really nice shot. I'm stoked on this one. This one is Matt Jones in New Zealand at Gorge Road Trails, super sick place. Crankworks, Brandon Semnock is a Red Bull rider. This was taken the other day on the M1 when I was heading to Goodwood with my friend Ben. This was a Savage R35, it was shooting flames, all crazy sort of stuff. And these are a couple of shots from the Rolls Royce factory which we were visiting to get our ride over to the Goodwood Festival. So we've got quite a selection of images here. So what we're going to do to start off with is we're going to click this top right hand button, which is the develop stage. And like I said earlier, you need to get Lightroom. If you haven't got Lightroom, this is going to be quite a pointless video for you really, because you know I'm not editing on iPhoto, I'm not editing on any other software. This is the software that I use, and I would advise you to use it as well. So I previously mentioned in another video this whole thing about presets. They kind of get dissed out by quite a number of photographers in the industry. I personally don't have an issue with them. I did diss them originally until I actually discovered that it's actually a really handy tool having a preset. Why? Because it gives you a cool colour tone over your image without you having to go about messing around with that sort of thing, because you can actually tweak the preset anyway. You don't just slap the preset. I mean, some people just slap the preset on and they export and they're done with it. It's not how I work. I find a cool preset and then I tweak with it over in the treatment section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a full preset that I like, so I'm going to scroll through here. You can see the preview up here of what it's showing me. So we're going to go with, I don't know, let's see what this looks like. This is kind of cool. Got some nice blue tones here, that sort of thing. I'm not too sure on that though, so I'm going to scroll again. Okay, I quite like this one because it's quite a nice hazy tone to it. So first of all, I'm going to straighten the image up. I like my images nice and straight. Everything I'm doing here isn't what you have to do. I mean, if you shot your image to be off axis or that sort of thing, then you're more than welcome to keep it the way it is. I mean, it's down to you how you edit your thing, but I'm going to go for a straight angle on this sort of shot. So I've got my photo here, and as you can see, it's not too bad. It's quite nice. I reckon that's actually already added some grain onto it. As you can see, yes, it has. Might leave a bit of grain in there, but anyway. So we're going to start off here, and this is sort of your basic sort of elements editing your photo. So you've got your color temperatures here, and you can see here if I'm going towards blue, it's making the picture really blue. If I go towards yellow, it goes to yellow. Same again, it's just adding in these different color tones into the image when I do it. And just to go back then, I'm just pressing Ctrl Z. So I like this sort of orange hue over the image, and I'm going to keep it like that. So I'm going to add a little bit more contrast in. I'm going to bring the blacks down because I really like these shadows here. I'm going to pull the whites up just a tad as well. And all of these things are controlling different elements in the photograph. So the highlights are the high points in the images. So as you can see here, that it's kind of controlling the lighter areas of the image. So as you can see, as I'm going back and forward there, light all the way up, light all the way down. And I'm going to kind of go sort of towards the back here because I like this sort of orange hue that's coming from the sun as it's setting. Shadows, as you can imagine, are the dark areas in the image. There, the shadows all the way down. You can't, they're completely blacked out. Shadows pumped up, it's bringing out as much light as possible in the darker areas of the image. So I'm going to keep the shadow pretty dark there. I think that's quite cool. I like these sort of dark elements to the image here. It's giving it a nice bit of detail and a nice kind of form to this this abstractness that's going down here. Now clarity is something that adds sharpness and brings out the contrast in the image. So as you can see, if I do this, I'm blurring the image, whereas if I'm doing this, it's making it really, really sharp. In fact, almost too sharp. So I'm going to try and find a nice balance here, and it'll, as you can see, it's kind of bumping the contrast here in the bottom right hand corner quite a lot. It's kind of bringing out those highlights a bit. Just going to play around with this a little bit. I'm going to bring out this orange a bit more. Now your tone curve is kind of a similar thing to adjusting shadows and highlights. As you can see there, the bottom hand of it adjusts the shadows, whereas the top hand adjusts all the highlights. And you can do this and it'll select different areas of the image, and you can play around all day long with that until you can find exactly what you want. But I'm going to leave that. I don't really want to touch that at the moment. So here we have the color palette, and this is how you get to really fine tune the colors in your image. So as you can see in the image, we've got some orange here. So if I were to pull this over here, I'm getting really red, and if I'm pulling it over to here, I'm kind of getting yellow, almost sort of green in this far left hand corner. Oh, I'm getting a sore throat from talking too much. I'm not used to this. I'm going to pull this down. Luminance is how light the colors are, and if it's all the way down, it's how dark it is. But then again, start to ruin the details in the image there, so I'm not going to do that too much. I'm going to pull this down. Sharpness, as you can imagine, is how you sharpen the image. If you want it really sharp, then it will do so. If you don't want it as sharp, then but it doesn't do a massive amount of detail. It just makes it a tad sharper. Now this is something that I really like using, and it's called noise reduction. And noise is sort of something that your camera picks up by using ISO. And this is basically little dots of color pixels kind of coming out really strong, and it looks a little bit messy. So what you do is you can pull up the luminance, and it will get rid of these sort of really nasty areas of graininess. Pulling up the luminance, and especially the color luminance, will get rid of all that nasty noise. So I like this image. It's looking quite cool. It's nothing spectacular. I haven't actually ever done anything with this image because I wasn't too happy with it. If anything, I would have cropped it in a little bit more when I was shooting it, but it is what it is. But anyway, we've got a good shot there, and that's all good. So that's number one done. So I'm going to blast through these a little bit quicker so you can basically see exactly what I'm doing with the images anyway. So you can see here exactly what I'm doing. I'm pretty much doing the exact same process that I did in that first image, and it is selecting a preset, and then once I've done that, I'll go over into the finer tuning details on the right hand side of Lightroom, and I'll play around with those until I'm happy with what I'm getting. Now what you can see here, I'm doing here, is called vignetting, and this is a little black kind of oval shape that it puts around your image, and it kind of it kind of pulls attention into the middle of the image. But what I'm doing here, your camera has a natural thing to vignette around the lens when you're shooting really wide. So as you can see, I haven't even done this, and it's got this blackness up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to opposite do it, and I'm just going to put the white in at the top instead, and it's going to get rid of this. It's going to pretty much get rid of it for me. There we go. So we're looking cool there. I'm going to go back up to the colours again, and I'm just going to play around with this until I'm happy. Now cropping is also something that is also incredibly important when you're editing your photographs. Now basically what you should do is when you're shooting, you should try and use as little cropping as possible when it comes to pros. So you want to shoot your images basically in the way that you want your final image to look. So be spatially aware of what's going on around your subject, and make sure you try and line up your image and get it a nice sort of perfect size to exactly where you want to do it. And if you do need to crop it, then it'll be a lot helpful doing this sort of process when you're shooting. So as you can see here, I'm going to crop this. I don't want this in the bottom of the photograph. It looks kind of messy, so I'm going to crop this out a little bit, and I'm also going to bring this bit down here, and I don't really like this black sort of bricking up at the top, so I'm going to get rid of that as well. Straighten up a little bit more. There we go, we're looking cool. So again, as you can see, I've used the old color preset on the left hand side of the image, and you guys can basically, what you can do is you can just go onto Google and you can search for Lightroom presets. A lot of them are free. I think I paid for maybe one pack of them, and it was about $20, so it's not much, but you don't have to pay for them. You can actually even create your own ones, but a lot of them you can find for free. Now this is a photo that I am really stoked to be editing right now. I actually thought that I lost this image a number of months ago, but when I was going through the old hard drive of my trip to California, I managed to find it, and I had a little burst out of excitement because it was a really cool shot. And something that I think about photography is, when you're shooting, you're kind of distilling a moment in time of your life. So it's not just a cool photograph, it's also a memory. So when I lost the image, I was quite pissed because I knew that it was a cool image. So when I found it, yeah, I was fully stoked. So looking forward to editing this one. So again, same thing, I'm going to be looking for the preset that I want to use. This whole process isn't anything too complicated. As you can see, I'm literally just tailoring the image to the way that I like it. You know, there's definitely no right or wrong to this. It's kind of whatever your eye is being attracted towards. So I mean, there's nothing, before I even shoot an image, I don't know how I'm going to edit it. It depends on my mood at the time, it depends how I'm feeling. So I mean, it's just whatever really. And again, you can see here that I'm cropping. I don't really want this in my image, so I'm going to just crop it out. I'm going to do this until it's just on the bottom here. And if you hadn't noticed for this image as well, look at how cool this balcony is. I wonder how much that place costs. As we haven't got a black and white image yet, I'm going to go for a black and white photograph of this shot with matte. The original is actually in colour, but I really want to make a nice black and white shot out of this. So yeah, black and white is a little bit more of a technical process, not actually in terms of how you're editing it, but trying to get the kind of the shadows and highlights and the tones of the black and white in the image to work really well with one another. So don't be surprised if editing black and white images takes a little bit longer. So you can just see there how I've taken sort of that grainy, almost blurry like look to the image away by merely taking away the grain out of the image. and busting up the luminance and the colour on the noise reduction. And you can see here the image is a hell of a lot sharper. On our last two images now, nearly there, and then we're going to get on to the second step of my photo editing process. Cool, so that's all my photos edited in Lightroom. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over to the library. So we're back into the library now. I've got all of my images which I've edited. I'm really happy on how they're looking. What we're going to do now is I'm going to click on the last one, I'm going to click on the first one, holding the shift button, I'm going to click export, and I'm going to make a new folder. It's going to be YouTube editing process image 1, and we're going to do export. So we're going to wait for this to export, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put them into Photoshop and we're going to touch them up so it gives them that really nice sort of clean look to the image. So here we are, our images are popping up into Photoshop now, and what we're going to do is we're going to basically pick out all of the foreign objects in the image. So that could be anything from dust spots, hairs on the image, or litter in the foreground or in the background of the image, anything that just kind of distracts the eye away from the main focus of the image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over each one of the images and I'm going to pick out all of these things. So I'm going to press F to put Photoshop in full frame mode, and here, as we can see, this is the first image that we had. So I'm just going to kind of scour over the image and look for anything that I think doesn't really suit in there. So our first one here is this little thing. I don't think this looks very good sticking out of here. I can actually see that that's a little bit distracting for my eye, which means it might be distracting for someone else. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to press S, or I can come over to here, and this is the clone stamp tool. Basically what this does is if I hold down the Alt button and I press, I have now cloned that area just there of the image, and if I click that, then it's going to clone it. I can clone this whole area here as I wish. Because I'm going to size this down, and I'm doing this I'm basically doing this with the bracketing keys on my keyboard, and I'm going to just basically Alt click that, so I've got that bit of area cloned. I'm literally just going to get rid of this here. I'm also going to zoom in a little bit more, and I'm just going to pull it over onto the top of that. And as we can see, that little distraction is completely gone now. Same again with this one, we're going to do exactly the same thing. Hopefully we should be able to just drag this across. I'm just going to pull that there. And there we go, that is completely done. Same again with this, look at this, I don't really like this thing in the image, boom, gone, simple as that. And you can actually use the J button, which is also on the left hand corner up here, and it's called the spot healing brush. Basically does a similar thing to what the clone stamp does, but if you just click on it, it does it for you automatically. You don't have to clone an area, and I'm just kind of getting rid of everything that I don't really want in the image as of right now. So all of these little marks down at the bottom of the bowl, these are all going out of the image because I think they look a little bit distracting. Okay, cool, I'm happy with that image, so I'm going to press Ctrl S and I'm going to save that at maximum quality just because we want high quality images. So that's number one done. So I'm going to blast over all of these images, and any points that I think are worth mentioning, I'll jump back in and tell you and explain to you guys what I'm doing. So as you can see here, this is another tool that I frequently use when I'm editing in Photoshop, and it's this button over here, and it's the same button for the two things that I do, and this is called dodging and burning. Dodging basically means highlighting or lightening up an area. Burning basically means darkening a certain area or a certain spot in the image. So what I want to do here is I'm going to click on the dodging tool, and I just want to bring out a little bit more glint in these headlights. So as you can see there, that's a lot brighter, so I'm just bringing out a little bit more glint in this. I'm going to bring out the Rolls-Royce emblem a little bit more, same again there, and as you can see, that looks a lot crisper. It stands out a lot better, so I'm really happy with this image. Control S this, and we're going to go on to the next one. So basically all I'm doing is I'm really using 4 tools when I'm editing my photos in Photoshop, and that is the dodge tool, the burn tool, the spot healing brush and the clone stamp. And these allow me to kind of tailor the image a little bit better to my suiting. It allows me to get rid of any foreign bits in the image, anything that I think just looks completely distracting. I don't have to deal with any of the exposure, the highlights, the shadows, the colour, any of that sort of thing, because we basically all kind of done it in Lightroom. Merely what we're doing is we're just giving the image a completely clean sort of look to it. So what I'm going to do now to speed up this whole process is I'm going to quickly edit the last of these images, and then we're going to take a little look at some before and afters. So guys, to recap what we've just gone and done is we have used Lightroom and Photoshop in order to edit our images. We've used Lightroom to edit the colours and sort of do the cropping and any sort of basic alterations to the light in the image. And then we've gone over to Photoshop and we've cleaned up the image with using tools such as the spot healing brush and the clone stamp, and adjusted some areas with dodging and burning. So what we're going to do now is we're going to give you a little before and after look at the images. So here they are. So as you can see, it really does make a massive difference when you edit your images. Some people don't like editing their images at all. They go for sort of the completely natural look, which is something that I can respect and I think is cool. And in fact, it really does depend on the image as well. If the image is good enough that it doesn't need editing, then I think you should leave it like that. So I hope that answers your question of how I edit my photos. That is basically how I do it. So I mean, yeah, that wraps up this evening's video. I hope you appreciate that I've gone and done it. It's now 1:30 and I have a photo shoot tomorrow, so I need to get myself to bed. But before I do that, thank you very much for watching. As always, make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Please go tell your friends as well, your family members, that sort of thing. I'm really trying to push my work out there, my YouTube channel at the moment, so any exposure you guys help me with is actually really appreciated, so thank you for that. But apart from that, that's everything. So until then, keep shooting.